Imagine writing a piece of software, right? You walk away to grab a cup of coffee, and you come back to find out your computer didn't just finish writing the code.
Right, it actually tested it.
Yeah, it opened the application, played the literal game you just built, beat itself, and then left you detailed notes on how to improve the user interface.
It's wild. It really is.
It's insane. Welcome to the deep dive. If you are listening right now, you are what we call the learner. You've got this relentless fire hose of technology news just blasting out of Silicon Valley this week. And, you just want a thorough, quick understanding of what actually matters without drowning in all the hype.
Exactly. And we're unpacking a really staggering breakdown of updates today. We're looking at Anthropic, OpenAI, Google, and Perplexity, based on Matt Wolf's recent analysis.
Right, figuring out what it actually means for you. Because it truly was a foundational week.
Oh, absolutely. We
Yeah.
saw a complete rewriting of how humans interface with operating systems, profound leaps in background processing models, and
And a few developments that just actively blur the line between, software prediction and physical reality.
yeah, the robotics stuff especially.
Okay, let's unpack this, because there is a very specific thread tying all these disparate updates together, isn't there?
There is, yeah. What's fascinating here is that we are witnessing the official death of the chat box.
Oh, wow. The death of the chat box.
Yeah. I mean, for the last few years, artificial intelligence has been a distinct destination, right? You open a new tab in your browser, you type a prompt into an empty box, and you wait for an answer.
Right, it's very transactional.
Exactly.
Huh.
But every single update this week points toward an autonomous, embedded future. The technology is moving into the background.
So it's not just a tool you talk to anymore.
No, not at all. It is becoming an invisible agent that actually operates your system, orchestrates your local files, and, interacts with the digital world on your behalf.
So we're moving from a passive tab in a browser to a tireless, proactive worker on your desktop. Let's talk about how that transition is physically happening right now, starting with OpenAI.
Yeah, they rolled out huge updates to their Codex application.
And it seems like this is morphing into their fabled super app, right? I saw this demo where a user asked it to generate a mock-up for a website selling surfboards and tacos.
Classic AI demo prompt.
Right. So Codex generates this beautifully designed image using GPT Image 1.5 directly inside the app, by the way. And then the user just says, build this site for me based on the mockup.
And it just does it.
6 minutes later, there is a polished static storefront. But I guess my question is, how is it translating a flat image into functional code so seamlessly?
So it comes down to a new capability they're calling comment mode, which relies on really advanced spatial reasoning.
Okay, spatial reasoning.
Yeah. In the past, if an AI generated a website and you wanted to change the background, you had to describe the layout in text. Something like, move the taco truck 40 pixels to the left so it doesn't block the header.
Which is always super tedious.
Right. Now, you simply hover your cursor over the visual elements of the generated site, click on the background, and type a comment in context.
Wait, so the AI actually sees the screen?
Exactly. It understands the coordinates of your screen. It knows where the text layers are, where the negative space is, and it deliberately repositions the new image elements so the text remains perfectly legible.
It understands the actual geography of your screen. That's wild. But the part that actually broke my brain was the Connect 4 example.
Oh, yeah. That was the highlight.
So the user asks Codex to build a local desktop version of Connect 4. It builds it. But then the user tells the AI to open the application and play the game to test the experience.
Yep.
What exactly is happening under the hood when the AI just takes over like that?
That is the defining moment of the entire update, really. The AI utilized what we call an agentic loop combined with computer vision.
Okay, what does that mean practically?
It literally took control of the cursor. It takes rapid-fire screenshots of the application it just built, analyzes the visual state of the game board, decides on a strategic move, and then executes a physical mouse click to drop a digital token into the slot.
It played the game against the application's own built-in logic, like a chef tasting their own soup before serving it to a customer.
That is a perfect analogy. Yeah. It won a game, lost a game to itself, and then actually reported back on the user experience.
And what blew my mind is that it does all of this in the background. Like an agent can be working on your Mac, clicking and typing with its own ghost cursor without interfering with the spreadsheet or email you are actively working on in the foreground.
Which naturally brings us to what Perplexity introduced this week.
Right.
They rolled out a feature called Personal Computer. Historically, Perplexity's cloud systems built things for you on their servers.
Yeah.
This update brings that entire orchestration layer down to your local device.
And the recommended setup for this is what? A dedicated Mac Mini that just sits in the corner of your room, available 24/7?
Precisely. The heavy brain power, the inference, is still happening on Perplexity's cloud servers, but the hands of the agent operate locally.
So we can touch my stuff.
Yes. It can read your native files, your local applications, and the open web to complete continuous multi-step workflows.
Wow.
You can tell it to manage your daily agenda, and it will read your personal, locally stored notes, reason out how to accomplish those tasks, and then coordinate across your hard drive, your email client, and your iMessage application to get it done.
Okay, I have to pause and push back on this.
Yeah.
If an autonomous agent is constantly scanning my local iMessages and reading my private, unencrypted notes to figure out my to-do list, aren't we crossing a rather terrifying privacy threshold here?
It's definitely a massive shift.
I mean, are we truly ready for a system that parses literally every thought sitting on our hard drives?
It is a profound trade-off, and one we are honestly going to be debating for the next decade. We are constantly balancing maximum utility against local privacy.
Right. You have to give it access if you want it to help you.
Exactly. The more context a system has about your life, the more autonomous and helpful it becomes. Now, Perplexity is attempting to mitigate the privacy concern by ensuring that all actions taken by the personal computer are entirely auditable and reversible.
Okay, so there's a paper trail.
Yes. A system acting on your behalf has to be legible. You need a transparent log showing exactly which files it opened, who it messaged, and a button to undo those actions.
That makes sense.
But to answer your question, yes, inviting an agent into the deepest layers of your local file system is a fundamental shift in how we view digital boundaries.
But if these agents are going to be managing the foundation of our operating systems, it completely upends how developers and creators are going to build software or media going forward.
Oh, entirely.
Because it seems like Anthropic, Google, and Canva are systematically hunting down and destroying friction in the creative process, like moving from a manual transmission to an automatic for creative work.
They are entirely restructuring the concept of a workflow. Take Anthropic's new release, Claude Code. They redesigned the user interface to integrate cowork and standard chat. But the critical architectural change is parallel sessions.
I want to understand this. You can kick off work across multiple different code repositories simultaneously.
Yes.
You could have one session rewriting the back-end database of an app and another session simultaneously debugging the visual overlay. How does that practically change a developer's day?
Well, think about the human cognitive limit of context switching. Normally, a developer writes code, compiles it, and sits there waiting to see if it breaks.
Right, a lot of downtime.
Exactly.
Huh.
With parallel sessions, it is like having 5 junior developers working on different components of an engine at the same time. You just pin the common threads to the top of your interface and jump back and forth as the results arrive.
That is wild.
And they also integrated an in-app file editor and a terminal. They are actively trying to eliminate the need for developers to ever open a traditional command line interface again.
They just want you in a perpetual flow state.
Precisely.
And Google is bringing that same frictionless flow to everyday users in their Chrome browser. They're introducing / commands.
Oh, those are so useful.
Yeah. If you have a complex prompt you use frequently, say, asking an AI to skim a dense financial report and extract the 3 most actionable takeaways, you simply save that prompt as a skill.
Yep.
The next time you are reading an article, you hit the / key, select your saved skill, and it executes directly on the page you are viewing. No copying, no pasting, no opening new tabs.
It's all about keeping you in context.
Exactly. But speaking of removing friction from the creative process, the Canva AI 2.0 update is fascinating.
Canva is transitioning from a static design tool into a comprehensive workflow engine. You can now prompt entire campaigns into existence.
Like a whole marketing campaign.
Yeah. A user can type, "Design a social media campaign for our upcoming shoe sale," using the brief located in my Notion workspace. The system will securely connect to Notion, read the marketing brief, generate the necessary Canva images, and then allow you to edit the visuals entirely through conversational text.
I read it even integrates with Slack and Gmail to automatically schedule and route those assets for approval.
It does. It handles the whole pipeline.
But the element that caught my attention is that it learns your specific aesthetic. If you are a creator who designs YouTube thumbnails, Canva AI 2.0 analyzes your past work and essentially learns your unique style, applying it to future generations automatically.
It acts like a mathematical equalizer for your aesthetic.
Okay.
It isolates the specific color palettes, font weights, and negative space ratios you prefer, and biases all future generations toward those exact frequencies.
Okay, that's huge.
And we are seeing a similar efficiency applied to video editing with DaVinci Resolve 21. They just introduced AI in telesearch.
How does that work? If I have like 20 hours of raw, unedited interview footage, how does it comb through that?
It simultaneously analyzes both the audio waveforms and the visual pixel data.
So it's looking and listening.
Exactly. You can type a command like, find the exact moment in the keynote where Jensen Huang is speaking about microchips. The system instantly cross-references facial recognition with the transcribed dialogue, isolates that specific 3-second clip, and drops it into your media pool.
Just boom, done. They also added a face age transformer tool where you drag a slider left or right to seamlessly add or remove wrinkles from a subject's face in full motion video.
Unbelievable feature.
You are no longer masking out faces frame by frame. You are just steering the conceptual outcome. But I have to ask you about the philosophical cost of this automation.
Oh.
If Canva acts as an equalizer that automatically biases toward your past style and everyone's tools perfectly conform to their existing preferences, do we lose the happy accidents of creative exploration?
It's a very real concern.
Does digital design just become a sterile echo chamber of our own past work?
That is the ultimate double-edged sword of hyper-personalization. When you completely remove friction, you also remove the struggle that often forces artistic innovation.
Right. The struggle is where the art happens.
Exactly. The algorithm optimizes for what you have already demonstrated you like, which inherently limits your exposure to what you didn't know you might love.
It's the total collapse of serendipity. If the canvas always perfectly predicts my next brushstroke, I never make the mistake that leads to a breakthrough.
Precisely. Creativity might shift away from the act of physical execution and become entirely about the act of deliberate curation.
Like, you're more of an art director than a painter.
Yes. The human's primary job in the future will be to intentionally introduce chaos into the prompt, just to break the machine out of the very echo chamber it built to please us.
Wow. But you cannot have an autonomous agent executing 1,000 seamless tasks a minute or generating complex campaigns if the server chokes on the processing power.
Very true.
That is the hidden wall developers are hitting right now. None of these magical workflows happen without monumental, silent upgrades to the underlying foundational models and the servers running them. Let's look at the engine room, starting with Anthropic's release of Claude Opus 4.7.
Right, so the benchmark to pay attention to here is SwebEng Pro. This is a highly rigorous test for software engineering capabilities. Opus 4.7 scored 64.3%.
Okay, to the average listener, 64% sounds like a D- in high school. Why is this a paradigm-shifting number?
To put that 64% into real-world perspective, if you pull 100 highly complex, undocumented, broken enterprise software bugs directly from GitHub.
The messy stuff.
Yeah, bugs that typically take human engineers hours or days to untangle. This model autonomously solves 64 of them without any human intervention.
So it is essentially a senior engineer in a box.
Exactly. But for the everyday user, the critical takeaway is that these models now require significantly less prompt engineering.
Because it's getting so incredibly adept at instruction following that it understands the actual intent behind your messy, poorly written language the first time, you don't have to trick the model into doing its job anymore.
Right.
But Anthropic also teased a model they didn't release, didn't they?
They shared internal benchmarks for a model called Mythos Preview, which scored an unprecedented 77.8% on those same SwebEng coding tests.
Almost 80%.
Yeah. But they publicly stated they're not releasing it because it is simply too powerful.
Okay, so knowing that the open source community is rapidly catching up to these proprietary models, I have to ask, is Anthropic keeping Mythos locked in the basement out of genuine ethical safety precautions? Or is this just brilliant, calculated marketing to build hype for their enterprise tier?
If we connect this to the bigger picture, it is vital to apply critical thinking to these corporate narratives.
Yeah.
On one hand, an agentic model scoring near 80% on software engineering can autonomously write, test, and deploy vast infrastructure. In malicious hands, that could be weaponized to discover and exploit zero-day cybersecurity vulnerabilities at a scale we have never seen.
Okay, so a pause is logical.
A pause is very logical. On the other hand, declaring a product too dangerous for the public is the ultimate flex in Silicon Valley.
Oh, absolutely.
It signals to investors that Anthropic possesses an untouchable vanguard of technology. It is almost certainly a strategic blend of genuine caution and highly effective theatrical marketing.
Because they have to justify their valuation against the open source heroes. We saw Mini-X M2.7 hit state-of-the-art for open source at 56.22% on coding benchmarks, though it carries a non-commercial license. And Alibaba released Quinn 3.635B.
Right, and that 35B signifies 35 billion parameters, which is the perfect sweet spot for capability versus size.
Meaning you don't need a supercomputer to run it?
Exactly. It means this model is intelligent enough to do serious coding work, but compact enough that you can run it locally on your own hardware if you have a decent graphics card,
Yeah.
entirely bypassing the cloud subscriptions.
But for enterprise applications relying on the cloud, infrastructure is becoming a nightmare. You build a great prototype, but the moment 10,000 real users hit your application, the inference costs skyrocket and the latency becomes unbearable.
Yes, the scaling bottleneck.
That brings up Crusoe-managed inference, which was highlighted this week as a major solution to that exact problem. How are they fixing this bottleneck?
First, let's define inference. Inference is the actual computational brainpower required to generate a new thought or answer, as opposed to simply storing or retrieving data.
Okay.
Crusoe allows teams to bring their custom models and deploy them on purpose-built hardware, offering 5 times more throughput than standard cloud providers. But their real breakthrough is a technology called memory alloy, designed specifically for ARG applications.
ARGA being retrieval augmented generation, where you feed the AI a massive stack of specific documents like your company's entire legal history and ask it to answer questions based on that context.
Correct. Normally, every time you ask a new question, the model will have to essentially reread that massive stack of documents, which eats up tremendous computing power.
Right, which slows everything down.
Exactly. Memory alloy functions like concept folding. It compresses that context window into a highly efficient crystallized summary in the system's memory. The AI doesn't have to reread the book. It just accesses the compressed knowledge instantly, keeping the inference incredibly fast, even as the massive document context scales.
That makes total sense. Now, scoring high on software engineering benchmarks and optimizing server infrastructure is vital for the digital world. But here's where it gets really interesting. Because the true value of intelligence is when it leaks off the digital screen and fundamentally alters the biological and physical world.
Yes.
OpenAI introduced an entirely different architecture this week, GPT Rosalind.
Rosalind is a reasoning model specifically fine-tuned for life sciences, biology, and drug discovery.
Not just a chatbot.
No, unlike generalized chat models, Rosalind is deeply optimized to understand molecular chemistry and phylogenetics. It is translating the logic of code into the logic of biology.
But it is strictly limited to trusted access researchers only. They are only granting keys to vetted scientists and institutions. It is a profound reminder that we are inches away from supercomputers actively designing cures for diseases.
It's incredible.
But while Rosalind tackles microscopic biology, Boston Dynamics tackled physical macro-robotics.
Yes, they released a demonstration video of a humanoid robot that successfully acts on unstructured written instructions.
The video is astonishing. A human writes a to-do list in marker on a physical whiteboard hanging on a wall. It says, make sure shoes are on the rack, recycle cans in the living room, put clothes in the laundry basket.
Just normal chores.
Yeah. The robot walks up, uses its cameras to read the physical handwriting, and then autonomously executes the sequence in the physical world. How does it translate a scribbled sentence into the complex physical actuation required to pick up a fragile object?
It represents the marriage of multimodal reasoning and robotic servos. The whiteboard acts as the prompt interface.
So it reads the prompt off the wall.
Yes. The model reads the text, breaks the goal into a sequence of required subtasks, uses its vision to map the physical geometry of the room, and then calculates the exact torque and grip strokes required to handle a soft shoe versus a rigid aluminum can. It finds the empty cans, physically crushes them, and drops them in a recycling bin.
It even grabs a leash and takes a dog for a walk out the front door. It is the literal embodiment of prompt engineering in the real world.
It really is.
But speaking of the physical world, it also provided the most bizarre financial news of the week. Allbirds, the company famous for making comfortable wool sneakers, went from a $4 billion IPO in 2021, crashed down to a $39 million valuation, And this week they announced they are completely pivoting away from shoes.
A very strange pivot.
They rebranded to New Bird AI to acquire high-performance GPU server assets, and their stock immediately surged 600%.
It perfectly illustrates the sheer speculative frenzy gripping the market right now. Capital is desperately chasing any entity with the letters AI bolted onto its prospectus.
It is the exact playbook from the late 90s dot-com bubble. Back then, a lumber company would just add .com to their corporate letterhead and their valuation would triple overnight.
Aye.
We are seeing the exact same irrational exuberance with processing hardware.
We really are.
But I want to circle back to the physical world for a moment. We all marvel at a Boston Dynamics robot, picking up a crushed can and doing our laundry. But isn't a model like Rosalind curing a cellular disease infinitely more valuable to the human race? Why are we collectively so much more obsessed with humanoid robots doing our chores than supercomputers solving molecular biology?
It ultimately comes down to tangibility and evolutionary psychology.
Okay, what do you mean by that?
Well, biology is abstract. A protein folding in a digital simulation is entirely invisible to the human eye. It doesn't trigger our innate understanding of labor or struggle. But folding laundry or sweeping a floor is a universally understood physical burden.
Right. Everyone hates doing laundry.
Exactly. When we see a humanoid form executing a task we personally despise, it immediately translates to a feeling of personal relief. We place the highest emotional value on what we can see and what directly alleviates our daily friction, even if the invisible scientific breakthrough is objectively more transformative for humanity.
Tangibility is a brilliant way to frame it. Which brings us to how we personally consume digital media, because that experience is becoming hyper-tangible and incredibly intimate. Let's look at the updates to voice synthesis. Google rolled out Gemini 3.1 Flash TTS, their new text-to-speech model.
The level of granular controllability in this model is unprecedented. It is no longer simply converting text into a robotic voice. It is actively performing.
It's acting.
Yes. Through specific prompting tags, you can command the system to drop its pitch into a dark, suspenseful whisper or accelerate its cadence into a state of absolute panic.
I heard a sample where it breathes. It takes sharp inhalations and inserts dramatic, hesitant pauses. It sighs. It genuinely laughs.
It's incredibly realistic.
They used it to generate a highly controllable two-speaker audio format, very much like Google's Notebook LM, where the synthetic voices banter, interrupt each other, and react with perfect emotional timing. How do they engineer synthetic emotion like that?
They map the acoustic markers of human emotion, the slight voice cracks, the varying breath intervals, and allow the inference engine to predict when those markers naturally occur based on the semantic weight of the text.
That is just wow.
And Google didn't stop at audio. They updated Nano Banana, their image generation tool.
Yes, the visual side.
Nano Banana now incorporates what they call personal intelligence. If you link your main account, the model draws secure context from your calendar, your drive, your emails, and your photos.
So it knows everything about your schedule.
It learns the visual identities of your family members, the layout of your home, and the schedule of your daily life in order to generate highly personalized images based on your actual lived reality.
And the raw speed at which these images are generated is becoming a brutal battleground. Midjourney released version 8.1, bringing back their highly sought-after cinematic aesthetics with native 2K high-definition rendering, claiming it is 3 times faster and cheaper to run.
The speed wars are real.
Meanwhile, Microsoft's MAI Image 2 Efficient model handles short text flawlessly and renders images in just 13.7 seconds. What does a 13-second render time actually mean for a user?
It changes the psychological relationship with the tool. When an image takes a minute to render, you treat it as a precious final product. When it takes 13 seconds, the image simply becomes a rapid prototype in a much larger conversation. You iterate a dozen times a minute.
Right, it's just a sketch.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But this raises an important question. We now have text-to-speech models that breathe and whisper with perfect human hesitation. We have image models that render photorealism in 13 seconds. And we have systems like Nano Banana that possess our intimate calendars and family portraits.
It's all coming together.
We are rapidly entering an era of deeply intimate synthetic media.
That is exactly the thread I was pulling on. If Google's Nano Banana knows my calendar and has access to my photo library, it could theoretically generate a photorealistic, flawlessly lit image of me and my dog playing on a specific beach that I am scheduled to visit next week before I even pack my bags.
It could.
Are we eventually going to start confusing our own computationally generated media with our actual lived memories?
It is a profound cognitive risk. Human memory is already notoriously malleable and heavily reliant on visual reinforcement.
We remember photos better than the event itself.
Yes. When you introduce hyper-realistic, personalized synthetic media that accurately reflects your environment, your loved ones, and your schedule, the cognitive boundary between a generated prediction and a recalled experience will inevitably begin to blur. Our physical past and our digital predictions are going to start bleeding into one another.
So what does this all mean? Let's bring this entirely together for the learner listening right now.
The overarching takeaway from this massive influx of updates is that the era of artificial intelligence as a simple, passive query tool is officially over.
The chat box is gone.
Exactly.
Yeah.
From Codex testing its own user interfaces, to Perplexity orchestrating files on a Mac Mini in your living room, to Canva automatically executing complex workflows based on your personal aesthetic equalizer. The technology is becoming a persistent, highly personalized operating system.
It's doing things on its own.
It anticipates needs, it executes background tasks autonomously, and it orchestrates solutions across the entirety of your digital and physical life.
It is no longer just a digital encyclopedia you talk to. It is an active intelligence that works for you. Which leaves me with a final thought I haven't been able to shake since looking at all these sources.
Okay, let's hear it.
If an AI agent like Codex can write an application, run it, and literally critique its own user interface, and a Perplexity agent is running 24/7 on a Mac Mini in the corner of your room, reading your notes and taking auditable actions on your behalf, at what point do we stop treating computers as tools and start treating them as employees?
That is the big question.
Will you soon need to sit down at your desk and give your personal digital agent a quarterly performance review?
That is the exact psychological shift in management. The next wave of technology will demand from all of us.
Thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive. Keep exploring, keep questioning how these mechanisms actually work, and whatever you do, don't let the fire hose overwhelm you. We will see you next time on the rapid frontier of AI.